My younger brother always had this way of saying things like they were jokes, even when it wasn't funny, even when it ate at you for days. When my phone buzzed at 9:42 a.m. on a Friday morning, I didn't expect anything dramatic. I was at my desk, finishing a report I had promised my boss would be ready before lunch. My brother's name popped up, and I smiled automatically, something I had conditioned myself to do even when I shouldn't have. The message was short, just 6 words. Don't come to the BBQ. Seriously. No explanation, no emoji, no winking face to soften the punch. Just that. I sat there staring at my screen, reading it again while the office hummed around me with people making weekend plans and shaking iced coffee cups like the world was normal. I typed, "Why?" Then deleted it. Then typed, "Is this a joke?" and deleted that too. In the end, I put the phone face down and tried to pretend it didn't sting. But it did. It stung somewhere in the place reserved for siblings, where you don't expect to be shut out unless something is really wrong. And nothing was wrong, as far as I knew. My brother and I weren't fighting. The family had no emergencies. The last time we talked, we'd gone out for breakfast. He got pancakes, I got eggs, and he hugged me in the parking lot like we were normal, like we were fine. At noon, I called my mother. She picked up on the 3rd ring and sounded flushed, like she'd been cooking. "Hey, sweetheart," she said. I asked her about the BBQ casually, like I didn't already know something was off. She paused for a beat too long. "Oh," she said, "that? You know, it's mostly just close family." The thing about that statement is, I am close family. I asked her what she meant. She laughed, but it wasn't natural. "Your brother just didn't want things to get weird," she said, the way someone might say they didn't want things to get loud or messy or embarrassing. I didn't know what part of me was supposed to make things weird. My voice got thin. "Is someone going to tell me what's going on?" She hesitated again, then changed the subject completely. I could hear the fridge door slam and aluminum foil crackle. I hung up first before I could cry, before I could ask again. That night, I went home to my apartment, which always seemed too big on Fridays when I didn't have plans. I ordered Chinese food and watched an episode of some show I didn't care about, but my mind wouldn't shut up. I kept thinking about that stupid text, about the tone, about my mother's shifty voice, about how I was supposed to be the boring, reliable one, the one who didn't cause trouble, the one who helped pay for college textbooks when my brother's financial aid didn't stretch far enough. The idea that I could suddenly be the weird one or the problem didn't make sense. Saturday morning, I woke up with that buzzing, anxious feeling that sits just behind the ribs. The BBQ wasn't until 3. At noon, my dad called. His voice was clipped like he'd been rehearsing. "Your brother isn't trying to hurt you. He just feels like the dynamic isn't good right now." I asked what dynamic meant because I'm not stupid. I knew he was implying something. My dad said, "He said you've been intense and kind of judgmental, and his wife doesn't want drama." I sat on my couch and stared at the blank wall while he talked. My brother's wife. Her voice echoed in my head, passive, polite, always a little smug. The kind of woman who'd smile while rearranging a knife in your back so it didn't show in pictures. I told my father I wasn't going to crash the BBQ. I wasn't going to stand outside like a sad clown begging to be included. He sounded relieved, which hurt more than if he'd sounded guilty. He said, "We'll make it up to you. Family brunch next week." I almost laughed. Family brunch sounded like the kind of thing people say right before forgetting to call for 6 months. At 3, I heard my upstairs neighbor laughing through the vent with friends over. Someone grilled on a balcony somewhere nearby. The smell of smoke and meat hit my window, and I turned up the TV. I didn't cry. I just sat there and ate cold lo mein until it was dark. The next week, when no one mentioned brunch and no one called, I sank into work. That's what I do. I vary things under tasks and productivity and polite emails. I convinced myself none of it mattered, until Friday morning when my assistant buzzed my office through the intercom, her voice trembling just slightly. "You have visitors." Visitors, not clients, not colleagues. Something in her tone made my stomach twist. My office door opened before I could ask who. My brother walked in first, then his wife. I froze halfway out of my chair.
He looked older than the last time I saw him, even though it had been only weeks. His wife didn't smile. She just looked at me with that soft, superior pity that made me hate her instantly. My brother shut the door behind them. "We need to talk," he said. And that was when I realized the BBQ wasn't the real issue. It never had been.
I didn't remember sitting back down in my chair, but I must have, because the next thing I recall was the faint squeak of leather beneath me, and the ticking clock on the wall that always ran 4 minutes fast. My brother didn't speak. My wife didn't speak. They just stood there, blocking the doorway like they were deciding whether to come in or leave. "Okay," I finally whispered, maybe just to break the silence. "Someone needs to start talking because I'm about 2 seconds from passing out." My brother swallowed first. I didn't want you to come to the barbecue because I didn't want you to see something." "That's vague," I muttered, my voice shaking. "What something? And why did you drag me into my own office like I cheated on someone?" My wife looked down, and I watched her shoulders lift on a shaky inhale. "Because it involved me," she said quietly. Every thought in my head broke like plate glass. I didn't breathe, didn't blink, didn't dare move, because the moment she said that, the world narrowed down to a needle's point. My brother stepped closer, hands slightly raised like he expected me to swing at him. "Not like that. Jesus, not like that. Nothing romantic, nothing cheating. You gotta know that first." "Then what?" I snapped. "What else could it be?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, screen trembling between his fingers. He tapped something, then placed it face up on my desk like evidence in a courtroom. It was a photo, blurry, taken at a weird angle, but I recognized my wife's hair, her coat, her purse. She was standing by my parents' garage with a large cardboard box in her hands, taped shut in the kind of frantic way you do when you don't want something to spill out. I stared at it, at her, at him. "What's in the box?" My wife blinked fast, too fast. "I was going to tell you. I swear I was." "Tell me what?" My voice cracked. "What the hell is going on?" My brother shook his head. "No, let her say it. She needs to say it." She hesitated like the word itself was heavy, then whispered, "Your mom." My stomach dropped, the floor suddenly tilting at a sick angle under my feet. "My mom's what?" The silence that followed was thick enough to suffocate. I grabbed the photo, slid it closer. The cardboard box in her hands haunted me. "Is she alive?" I asked. "Answer me. Is my mom alive?" My wife closed her eyes. For a moment, I swear the answer was going to be no. Then she opened them and said, "Yes." "My mom's been in Florida for 2 years," I said. "She sends postcards, she calls me once a month, she sends Christmas gifts. What do you mean, yes?" My brother laughed. Not a funny laugh, but a short, loud burst, like his body couldn't contain the insanity of the moment. "Those postcards? Yeah. We need to explain from the beginning," my wife said gently. "And it's not going to make sense all at once. It's complicated." I stared at the stack of envelopes, the blurry picture, my brother's shaking hands, my wife's terrified eyes, and suddenly I knew this was going to be one of those moments in life where you can't go back to the version of yourself from 5 minutes earlier, no matter how badly you want to. "Start talking," I whispered. "Don't stop until I understand." My wife sat down across from me, but my brother stayed standing like he was afraid sitting would make him weak. The envelopes between us looked like tiny landmines, harmless until you stepped on the right one. "It started 2 years ago, before your mom stopped visiting, before the postcards." "I remember," I whispered. "She was acting strange, forgetting things." That wasn't forgetting, that was paranoia. The word didn't land right, too extreme, too clinical, too far away from the woman who used to make chicken salad and gossip about the neighbors like it was a national sport. "No," I said, "she wasn't paranoid, she was just stressed. Dad had just—" "I know," he cut in, "but it wasn't grief. We thought it was, everyone did. But then she started calling me at 3 in the morning saying people were in the backyard, that they were watching her, that the mailman was listening at the windows. My brain stalled. I remembered those calls, the ones I dismissed with a half-asleep laugh and a, "God, Mom, you're being dramatic." "She told me she didn't want to bother you," my wife added quietly. "She said you had enough to carry." That landed like a punch I didn't see coming. "So you kept all this from me to protect me?" My brother threw up his hands. "We didn't keep it from you. We tried to tell you, like 5 different times, but every time we'd get close, you'd shut down, or you'd get defensive, or you'd change the subject, and Mom begged us not to tell you." "She begged?" I repeated, my throat tight. My wife nodded. "She said you'd take it personally." I let out a shaky laugh. "Of course I'd take it personally. She's my mother." Silence filled the room again, dense and uncomfortable, like the air had weight. "Why Fresno? Why not here?" "Because she didn't want you to see her like that. She said if you saw the real situation, you'd blame yourself." I pressed my palms against my face, dragging them upward like that might somehow lift the dread with them. "And the postcards?" My wife reached for the stack. Her fingers brushed mine, and I pulled away without meaning to. She noticed. She didn't comment. "She wrote them before she left, all at once, different cities, different dates. We mailed them over time." My mind rolled backward, replaying every cheerful message signed in her tiny cursive. "Sun is great. Retirement is peaceful. Love you, baby." They felt real. They were real to her, my wife said. I looked at my brother. "And the Christmas gifts?" He cleared his throat. "She picked everything before she checked in, and she told us what to send after. The facility let her make lists. It made her feel normal." Normal. God. What about the barbecue? Why was she there? My brother hesitated, really hesitated, and my heartbeat picked up speed like it sensed a plot twist coming before I did. "She's out now," he finally said. "Technically, she's in outpatient, supervised, controlled. Not great, but not dangerous." "And no one told me?" "We were going to," Christina said, quickly. "We planned to, but she insisted she wanted to wait until she resembled herself again." "That doesn't explain the picture," I said, tapping the phone on the desk, "or the secret box." My wife inhaled, like the next words were going to hurt coming out. "The box was full of your dad's files." I froze. "What files?" "The ones from the shed, the ones he kept locked up." I shook my head. "Dad didn't keep files. He didn't even keep tax documents without losing them." My brother laughed nervously. "Yeah, that's what we thought. Turns out we didn't know Dad as well as we thought we did." My brain hit the brakes again. What kind of files? Medical? Financial? What? He stepped closer and lowered his voice, like the office walls might be recording us. "Research. Old. Detailed. About you." I blinked. "Me?" He nodded once, slow, uneasy. "What the hell would Dad be researching about me?" "My wife said you wouldn't believe her unless you saw the files yourself. That's why the box was taped like that. That's why she didn't want you at the barbecue. She wasn't ready to give them to you." My hands felt cold, fingertips buzzing. "Okay, so let's see them. Where are they now?" My brother's eyes flicked toward the hall. "That's part of the problem." "What problem?" He shifted on his feet. "We don't have the box anymore." My stomach dropped. "You lost it?" "No," my wife whispered. "Someone took it." The room tilted again, another slow, nauseating shift under reality's feet. "Took it?" I echoed. "Who?" My brother looked at me like the answer was going to reshape the entire narrative. "It was Dad's old coworker," he said. "The one from Lockridge Labs." I stared at him. The name felt familiar and foreign at the same time, like a word I'd heard once in childhood and never again. "What does Dad's coworker want with research about me?" My brother didn't answer. My wife did. "He thinks Dad never finished it." And just like that, the story I thought I was in, about a sick mother and a protective family, shifted again,
widening into something bigger, stranger, and way more dangerous than I was emotionally prepared for.
The moment we pulled into the facility parking lot, my chest tightened like someone was cinching a belt around my ribs. It didn't look like a hospital. It looked like one of those quiet retirement condos by the beach. Pale siding, trimmed hedges, and a little fountain that pretended everything inside wasn't complicated or heavy. My brother parked but didn't move to get out. He just stared through the windshield like he was bracing for impact. "She doesn't know we're coming," he said. "She still thinks she has time." "Time for what?" I asked. "To decide if she wants you in this or not." My wife reached over and squeezed my hand. It didn't make me feel better, it just confirmed how bad it all was. Inside, the place smelled like lemon cleaner and warm plastic. A receptionist buzzed us through 2 doors. The last one clicked behind us, and I swear the sound traveled down my spine like a cold coin. Mom was sitting at a small round table near the window, sunlight washing her hair in the color of old honey. She looked thinner, smaller, like the years had folded her inward. But her eyes, God, her eyes were still the same, sharp, knowing, too awake for someone pretending to be fragile. When she saw me, her mouth opened just a little, not in shock, in calculation. "You came," she said softly. "I did," I said. She motioned for my brother and wife to sit, but not for me. Instead, she stood and walked to a tall cabinet against the wall. She opened it with a key she wore around her neck. For a second, all I saw were stacks of puzzles and coloring books, soft distractions for restless minds. Then she slid her hand behind one of the boxes and pulled out a slim black folder. It wasn't the box from the barbecue, but it was something. She set it on the table like a dealer laying down a bet. "This is all I have left," she said. "He took the rest." He, meaning Dad's coworker? Mom's jaw tightened. He wasn't just a coworker. He was Dad's partner. He helped him start the research. He helped him hide it. "What research?" I asked, my voice trembling despite how hard I tried to keep it still. Mom shook her head. "If I tell you now, you won't believe me, and if I tell you wrong, you'll run, and I can't have you running, not this time." I stared at the black folder. "So what do you want?" "I want you to read it. All of it. Not the news articles, not the medical reports, not the patents. Those come later. I want you to see what your father wrote about you before you decide if you want the rest." Every nerve in my body hummed. "Where's the box?" I asked. "In a storage unit, under his name. If he dies, it becomes mine. If I die, it becomes yours. And if neither of you die?" Mom smiled without warmth. "Then we play until someone folds, and trust me, he doesn't fold easy." I swallowed. "And the coworker?" Mom leaned in and lowered her voice. "He didn't steal the box to hide it. He stole it to finish it. That should scare you." My brother rubbed his forehead. "We don't even know if the research is real, Mom. We don't know if any of this is real." Mom looked at him with pity. "That's because you weren't the subject." The room went still, air heavy, clock ticking in perfect, unbearable rhythm. She dragged the folder toward me with 2 fingers. "Take it, but don't open it here, and don't let anyone else read it first." I touched the cover. It was warm, or maybe my hands were. Mom exhaled. "Your father didn't want you to know how special you were." Special. The word didn't land right. It felt loaded, dangerous. Nothing like the compliment people use when they don't want to say gifted or strange. "Why tell me now?" I whispered. Mom smiled, but her eyes glossed with something sharp and glittering. "Because he's looking for you, and I'm tired of fighting alone." My wife's hand shot across the table. "Who's looking for her?" Mom tilted her head. "All of them." My brother stood so fast his chair scraped the tile. Okay, that's enough. She's done. She needs rest." Mom didn't look tired. She looked ready. She reached out and cupped my face, her hand shaking, not from weakness, but from urgency. "Take that folder and decide if you're brave enough to read the rest."
Her thumb brushed my cheek. Because once you do, there is no version of this life that stays normal. A nurse appeared in the doorway, polite but insistent. Visiting hours were over. We walked out in silence, the folder held against my chest like a borrowed heartbeat. In the car, my brother started the engine but didn't drive. He just stared at the steering wheel.